I'm so glad you're here. This is a replay of a live training I did inside the OTs for Pelvic Health Facebook group with Lindsey Vestal, and I wanted to make sure that everyone gets access to it. Pelvic health is such an incredibly fulfilling specialty, and it's growing so much. I've been training OT since 2018, and my goal is to have over 10,000 OTs trained by the year 2030. I'm so glad you're here learning about this specialty. I hope that you can join us in the OTs for Pelvic Health Facebook group with me, Lindsey Vestal. I will link to the group below in the show notes and description. Thank you so much.
Hello, welcome to OT Empower Hour. I apologize for changing the time today and for joining you a little bit late. I'm on the faculty of Body Ready method and just got finished a fantastic talk all about the pelvic floor and its role with those who are helping pre and postnatal people in their journey, and it was awesome. It was awesome. I want to jump in here today to talk about 4 physiological methods that we use to protect ourselves and our clients use to protect themselves. And I think as pelvic floor therapists who strive to support our clients in all the ways, including being the most trauma-informed therapist we can be, this is a really important topic. So we're going to go there today. Before we do that, I want you to let's kick off our icebreaker question, which mine revolves around something that just happened this morning, which is we got about 3 inches of snow here in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is incredible. It is the first time I have seen snow in November. So I grew up in South Florida, and then New York City, we barely got snow. Paris, we barely got snow. So I am loving this. And I want to know first of all, if you don't love winter sports, you can just simply say no. But if you do, what is your favorite winter sport? So I have recently discovered cross-country skiing. Actually picked it up when we were living in France and absolutely adore it. My kids got into it. It was like the best family activity. So I'm going to throw in cross-country skiing. Let me know what your favorite winter activity is. And thank you for being here. I love our OT Empower Hours. So today we're going to talk about those 4 physiological states or methods that we use to protect ourselves. And again, I innately feel that by understanding survival responses and I think what we can call self-protective impulses, we can really begin to better track where both us as the practitioner and our clients are in their experience of safety. This is a really important topic in pelvic health. This feeling safe in a session, feeling safe in your body, feeling safe in your decisions, and experiences of safety give us a sense, more and more of a sense of how it lands in our body when we have those experiences. It also helps us as practitioners to be more attuned to the needs of the present moment. And again, as pelvic floor therapists, I truly believe we need to be trauma-informed therapists. And by more deeply understanding all of these physiological states, we can better understand how our work can impact our clients' progress. And sometimes it just may not be appropriate to do internal work or to do hands-on work. And I find that the more deeply I study the neuroscience of stress, the more confidence I feel in making this decision and proposing this decision and in having that candid conversation with the client regarding how we're going to conduct our session that day. Now, you're probably familiar with the 4 F's, right? These are the physiological states I'm referring to. So there's fight, there's flight, there's freeze, and there's fawn. And all of them have evolved as a survival mechanism to help us react quickly to life-threatening situations. So when our brain perceives a threat, right, we automatically, intuitively react with one of these 4 trauma responses, depending on the factors such as our individual past and how we've experienced trauma before. And the brain makes this really quick decision before conscious thought ever comes in. And this is where I'm going to bring this up a little bit later, why When our body makes this decision, our brain makes this decision, it is the most biologically intelligent decision it can make at that time. We may not always understand it if we retrospectively look back on it, but it is literally the most intelligent decision it could have made in that snapshot of a moment when it had to make that decision. So our understanding of the fight or flight response really continues to grow as we learn about the vagus nerve that controls these responses. I did a whole OT Empower Hour on the vagus nerve. I'll link to it in the comments. It's such a rich topic that I continue to go down the rabbit hole in understanding. And the fight or flight response has literally been studied for over 100 years in both animals and humans. And initially, researchers noticed that this was the default when we were confronted with a life-threatening experience. So fighting back or running away, right? Fight or flight. But as our understanding has developed and we studied this more, we discovered a freeze response. So what comes to mind when I think of a freeze response is like when you're watching a nature documentary. I'm thinking of a lion who turns to defend its freshly killed dinner, and that animal jumps up and flees while the lion is distracted, right? So that's an example of the freeze response. In humans, the freeze response might look more like being unable to move when a robber demands something inside your purse, right? You literally just are frozen in your tracks. And then there's fawn. So fawn is the most recent addition to our categories. It's kind of new as far as research is concerned, and it was added by researchers as they continued to study trauma and fear. It was actually a term coined by, I think his name is Pete Walker. He was a PTSD survivor, and he is a licensed massage and family therapist who specializes in helping adults who are traumatized in children. And as social creatures, we generally begin with that fawn response. And when we feel a threat to our safety or our belonging or even, let's say, our dignity, we move on to the next one. But fawning, the more I study fawning, the more I see, you can refer to it as like pleasing and appeasing, right? So if this doesn't get the desired result, that's when we might turn to flight as the next protective mechanism, as long as there's an opportunity to get away from a life-threatening situation, right? But fawning can look like people pleasing. It can look like being unable to say how you really feel or think. It could be caring for others against your own detriment, always saying yes to everything, avoiding conflict. These are some of the ways fawning can look. And when none of these first three responses work, and when we have severe mental, emotional, or even bodily harm perceived by our very intelligent autonomic nervous system, we'll go into what's called the freeze response. All right. So that's kind of the order. And again, it's not the same order for everybody, but research has showed this generally is the order that's followed, right? And again, all of these responses are biologically intelligent. All right. Think about a gazelle who's about to be eaten by a lion. Once the hormones reach a certain threshold, this gazelle will freeze, potentially disassociate, and collapse, as its body has a ton of hormones which help with pain, killing, and reduce the pain of the physical impact, right? Like, it's so intelligent. Our body is always trying to support us. And for each and every one of these survival responses, there is a self-protective impulse. And it's the body's unique way of asking the musculoskeletal system to mobilize and prepare itself for action to manage the danger, right? So fawning is this self-protective impulse to, let's say, placate and pacify, or to settle and soothe. Then we have flight, which is that self-protective impulse to get away, to move. Fight is the impulse to protect and push. And then freeze, which is that impulse to lock up. Okay. So when we think about supporting our clients, right, OTs, we are masters of body language and nonverbal and verbal communication. So I want to focus today a little bit on body language to help give us a sense of what's happening, because so many of these impulses are unconscious, meaning your client probably isn't even consciously aware of some of the subtle shifts that we may pick up on. So when working with your client, things to notice are, does their body language represent being self-assured? Are they grounded in their seat? Are they engaging with you through eye contact and open communication? Are they relaxed? Are they curious? These are all signs of a well-regulated nervous system. And then I want you to think about a time when someone asked you how you were, and you said you were fine, but yet nothing about your body language had they paid attention to. Your vocal tone, your facial expression actually said that you were fine. So this is really common in our culture, this overriding, and it's reinforced in so many ways through our development when we're told like everything's fine or it's not a big deal. So it's a mechanism for suppressing emotions, right? A simple statement like, you don't need to feel scared, there's nothing wrong, can impact that inner experience to kind of swallow those feelings that we're having. And when I think about this, and it relates, I'm trying to always come back to the purpose of this group in pelvic health and the work we do with clients, is when we ask if we can do an internal exam and they're just like, yes, just do it. Right? Or I'm thinking about clients, like I worked with mainly pre and postnatal clients in New York City, and I would say, would you like to do the internal exam now? And they would say, now that I've had a baby, everybody's seen everything. I'm comfortable with getting undressed. You don't even need to leave the room. This sort of dismissiveness, meaning they might feel another way, but they've been conditioned because of experiences to override maybe what if they stopped and allowed themselves to think about might have had a different response. So I would like to encourage us as pelvic floor therapists to pause in that moment and ask again, and to say, this is something we can do another time. There are so many other things we can do today. There's so many other ways that we can address your goals and your needs. And it doesn't have to be through an internal exam or even touch today if you're uncomfortable, right? I think that the power of choice and the power of turning over to a client what perhaps culturally in the past they've never given an opportunity to express their true needs is a chance to stop in their tracks and show them that it can be different. Show them that actually they have the power and they're in charge. They are calling the shots. And it's as simple as revisiting the answer to their question when we ask them, do they want to do a pelvic floor exam? Do they want to get undressed? Are they comfortable with this? So not going through the motions, but consciously deciding and making a decision. If you feel safe, if you feel ready. So the way that our flight response, so now I want to talk about the flight response and like how that can look in the body with a client in front of us. So this could be when you see like a client pull back with their upper body, or even when they are tightening their lower body, or like tapping their feet, right? Or feeling like it's that impulse to move, to go, to get out. And speaking of which, well, if you're live with me now, if you're listening, if you're on replay, let me know if you're on replay. I love seeing when you watch the replays and what topics are most interesting to you as I continue to plan my content for 2023. Just type replay so I know you're here and this is an interesting topic to you. If you're live, I still want to know your answer about your favorite winter sport. I'd love for you to invite you to take a moment and allow yourself to really feel your feet on the floor, right? Put a little small amount of pressure through your heels, engage your quads, and maybe lean back ever so slightly. This would be a bit of that flight response, right? That self-protective impulse to push against threat. It involves a movement of the body forward or back, often a pulling up of the head and the shoulders forward, thinking about your shoulders reaching up to your ears like a boxer. It can even be an impulse to like push through your arms, push the table away through your arms. Thank you for joining us, Mary. Figure skating, I'm so impressed. Oh, how lovely. I wish I could see you do that. Now a freeze response, if you're with a client who's having a freeze response, this could look like crossing of the arms, a lowering of the head. It could look like full body rigidity, with sort of like a wide eyes, like holding a breath or like stopping a breath completely. So this was just a quick overview of the survival responses, the self-protective impulses, the somatic expressions in our body of what a dysregulated nervous system could look like. And as you're starting to get a sense of this, both inside yourself as the practitioner and the client in front of you, really start noticing when you're at a dinner party, what is the body posturing? When you're at a store and maybe an altercation happens between the person in front of you and the store attendant, right? Like just start to notice what positions in the body are starting to take on, because by knowing where you and your clients are, become more attuned to what's happening below the surface. And the more attuned you are to what's actually happening, the better we can support our clients. And honestly, the more confident you can feel in your work as a pelvic floor OT. So stay curious, both in your professional work and your day-to-day interactions with others, as you continue on this journey to becoming a trauma-informed OT, who is really stepping into their role of empowering their clients and really becoming this facilitator versus this fixing mentality. Such a joy to join you guys today for this topic. I'm going to go rest my voice. I taught 2 hours this morning for Body Ready Method, all about the pelvic floor. Love jumping in here and talking with you about this. I'm going to go pour myself a nice cup of tea. I wish you all a beautiful, beautiful day, and can't wait to see you next week. If you have ideas for OT Empower Hour, future ideas, email me, drop it in the comments. And as always, thank you for being such a part of this incredible community.